What's up, guys, and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Neo Vintage Podcast. I'm Jabril, and I'm with
Steve. Hope everyone's doing good out there.
And for you guys that have never seen the show before, we're just two guys that like to talk over the biggest stories in gaming, and we always like to start with what we've been playing. So, Steve, let me know what you've been playing.
Yeah, so just a few little, add-ons for what I've been playing recently. Still, playing Skyward Sword, enjoying it. When I put it down for a little bit and I come back to it, the controls are really so awkward to me. I always think how the camera sword button works, I always think that it should be reversed. I think it would have made more sense to hit the L button, or yeah, I think it's the L bumper to swap to the sword movement so I can freely move the camera. So it makes those tighter dungeons a little bit just difficult when I'm just trying to look at, where are these little secret eyes to hit and things like that. Besides that, I still really like the game. I'm really enjoying it, and I'm just trying to take my time with it, though, because I'm not trying to blast through it. We're going to probably wait another year or two before, like, a Zelda game, unless we get some sort of collection or port, which, knowing Nintendo, we won't get. So, we're still enjoying that. A small update on Scarlet Nexus. Again, all the positives I gave it about its gameplay and everything still stand strong. I really do like that game. My complaint is, and I know it's going to sound weird, we all know this game is very anime. It's gotten to the point where it's too anime. Not in the sense of style or anything, but more of its terms, where they start just dropping random terms and characters, and I start losing who's who because people look the same. It also gets to the point where it's a little Kojima style, where not only is it way out there and I don't know what they're talking about, but it gets to the point where I'm going almost 20-25 minutes without actually playing, maybe walking down sidewalks and back. But when the combat's so good and then you don't give me that combat, it starts to weigh on me, It's like sometimes I only have an hour to play. It's like, well, in a world where I can go play Devil May Cry, knock out 2-3 stages and be good, I could sit here, watch a 25-minute cutscene for Scarlet Nexus, and that takes up half the time, because then you have to go back and work on some of your dialogue with characters and get some upgrades. Then you finally get to a stage and it's 2 quick bosses and it's over, and then you're back for these big cutscenes. So it's a little bit more of a drag, where it's like I gotta make sure I'm in the mood and that world to experience Scarlet Nexus. But it's like the more I play, the more I love the gameplay, but the things I hate, I start to hate more, which we've mentioned. I don't remember what game we talked about before that we kind of both said the same about it. But it's one of those things where it's like, man, I just wish you gave me a little bit more. I wish maybe the cutscenes were a little bit more animated would help as well, because some cutscenes are animated, other cutscenes are just very still, almost Danganronpa style images, where it's like voiced, but nothing's happening, so your eyes start to wander a little bit, and it's just a weird choice, because the game's budget was pretty good and everything else was solid. I'm just like, why wasn't some of this animated a little bit better? But besides that, I do still think that's a solid game. I hope it does well. It's probably gonna be really a one-off, very much like we say, Code Vein. But I'm still trying to get through it. I just don't think once I do beat it, I'm gonna go back for the second campaign, because that's a lot to ask for. I don't know if I'm really ready to do Scarlet Nexus a second time after this, especially with so many games coming out. I mean, today's August 1st as we're recording this month is packed, so I don't know how much I'll be able to do that. But all in all, I am enjoying that game. And the only other thing I've been playing, and I guess we'll save it also for the later story, I'm in the Halo Infinite technical preview flight beta. But I'll save my thoughts on that. We'll connect it to the first story later on. So, Jabril, tell me, what have you been playing?
Yeah, so I guess I could start with Skyward Sword. I took kind of a pause on that. I made it all the way to like that desert area. I can't remember the exact name for it. And it's just more challenging, like environmental puzzles. So I was like, oh, let me just take a break from this. I've been playing a lot of this kind of straight through. And when I went back to it, I'm currently in a position where I just can't play it. Like physically, like I lost the ability, like I don't get the controls. I kind of forgot the controls again. So I'm trying to like relearn the controls, because the thing is, like, as you progress through the game, obviously it gets a little tougher and tougher. And my hold on the controls already went away. So I'm like, oh God, I need to like relearn this. And need to relearn it fast, because this area is a little bit tougher. But yeah, no, I'm having fun with that. Not trying to rush through it, kind of just, play here and there as needed. I went back to AC Valhalla, in depth too, not just like lightly touching. I finished up everything on the top level. Like I pacified the entire map of England. I finished up some ongoing quests that were going on. I hunted the remainder of like the kind of cult members, the order of the ancients. I hunted the rest of them all the way up the chain, and then I got the season pass because I knew that already one of the DLCs, the story expansion DLCs, came out, and another one was going to come out later this month. And I was like, you know what, actually, let me go give that a shot because I was having fun with it quite a bit, and I was like, hey, I kind of want more. And then I was like, oh yeah, they put out the Wrath of the Druids, which is the ability to go to Ireland, and I'm like, you know what, let me just pick up the season pass so I can play the Siege of Paris later this month. And so I went through the entirety of the Wrath of the Druids. Very good DLC, very good. So for anybody who's gone through Valhalla or is even currently in Valhalla, if you're looking for just more story stuff, I think they did an excellent job with this DLC. It has pretty much everything I'd want: new gear, new characters, a whole new map with new outposts to kind of go to and clear out and take over, which produce items to be able to upgrade your main settlement, a whole new kind of like map of cultists to kind of hunt down and look for different hints about where their location is and stuff like that. So pretty much everything in Valhalla they just give you, again, just in Ireland and kind of like a little microcosm. So very, very well done, and a new romance option as well. Unfortunately, it doesn't carry into your main game, but it's something you can, it's a very much a Vegas situation. What happens in Ireland stays in Ireland. But no, very, very well done, and it makes me very excited to see what they do for the Siege of Paris DLC. So for anyone who likes Valhalla, definitely go check out Wrath of the Druids. If you didn't like Valhalla and there was like certain things about it that either annoyed you or just didn't interest you, the Wrath of the Druids is going to do absolutely nothing for you. I think Ireland is very different in many ways. There's a lot of kind of like a mystical, mythological feel to that land just because of naturally how the ruins and stuff like that looks, and a lot of the different Irish folklore that they kind of bring into the story. But for the most part, I don't think it's so far of a departure that thematically it's like a complete 180 from what Valhalla did originally in England. They're all in the general vicinity of each other. They have a very similar look to each other. So if Valhalla didn't really do it for you, especially from a gameplay level, Wrath of the Druids is not going to fix that. But if you just wanted more, I think Ubisoft did a very good job of kind of giving people exactly what you'd want out of a DLC pack, which is a little bit of just everything. So very happy with that. But as of right now, I've also beat Ireland. So I don't really have that much to do, and the stuff that are left to do are kind of just annoying to me, which is kind of just like grinding for loot. Not grinding, but like searching for loot, and I just don't want to do that because it's boring. And there is this challenge mode that you can do, but it's also kind of annoying to me. So, and river raiding also annoying to me. So a lot of the extra mechanics that they've dropped recently are kind of boring and not interesting to me. So I'm kind of just waiting for new story additives, which look like it's going to be Siege of Paris. So that's later this month. So the moment that comes out, even maybe either, if not the next episode or the episode after, I'll probably have something to say about it.
Okay, cool.
So that's done. So since I finished Valhalla, and I was like, well, that's everything I can do in there, I was like, you know what, let me get back to my original playthrough of Assassin's Creed. Now, you guys know I went through 1 and 2, and I was like, well, do I want to jump into Brotherhood and Revelations right now? I was like, well, not really. So I jumped into 3, just to get those mainline ones out of the way.
Oh, okay.
So I jumped into 3, and I'm actually... So there's 12 sequences in the game. I'm on sequence 9. So I'm quite deep into the game. I'm on the latter half of the game, to be honest with you. I've played maybe 10 hours now or something like that. The older Assassin's Creed are obviously way more manageable than the newer ones. So 10 hours in an Assassin's Creed game is actually quite deep. And I like it. Like, I know some people weren't particularly enthused. I remember when this game came out where, like, some people were very disappointed with this game, obviously, as a numbered follow-up to 2, and 2 being as amazing as it was. And then some people liked it. I fall on the camp that I do like the game quite a bit. I'm very interested in that world that they set up. The 1700s are just such an interesting time period, obviously, with the revolutionary and that kind of like very kind of hot, caustic situation that was happening then. The main character is very interesting as well. I love the fact that they're including all this kind of like Native American and imagery and stuff like that. I think they did a pretty cool job with that. Yeah, I like the game quite a bit. It plays a little stiff, just like 2 does, just like the first one does. It feels better than the previous one, so I can feel the series evolving as I'm going through it, which is awesome. And I fully intend on hitting Black Flag after this and Rogue after that. So I'm planning on going through the franchise, and since these ones are a lot more manageable, I think it's way more feasible to get through and go from Assassin's Creed to Assassin's Creed. And because they're so different from one another, I don't feel like I'm going to get super burned out, especially because as the games progress, they play more and more different, and it opens up more and more. 3 does have the main problem, I think, of a lot of open world games of that time where they were experimenting with creating these much larger worlds, but they didn't quite know how to populate it yet. So there's lots of points where, like, I had these massive areas, but with not much to do in it. Not that I'm necessarily looking for more. These are games I'm really only interested in just doing the main story, just because I don't need to level up or anything like that. The RPG mechanics weren't introduced yet, so I don't really have that much of an incentive to do some of these smaller storylines if there's nothing immediate that I can benefit with. Because the expanded lore, I mean, sometimes like, hey, can you help fetch some items for me so my cart can be not derailed anymore? Like, I don't know if I'm going to spend 30 minutes doing that right now.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, no, I'm positive on it. I think, obviously, from a narrative perspective, I think 2 is much better. But I think I'd rather play this game than a lot of other games that I've been dabbling with lately. So I'm pretty positive on it. And I did like the fake out, and I guess this is AC3 spoilers for anybody, is that the first like 2 hours or so, you're not even playing as the main character. You're playing as the antagonist. And that was super interesting, and I felt so stupid when they made the switch. And I'm like looking at the cover of the game, and I'm like, well, yeah, obviously that's not the guy I've been playing as, and I don't know why I didn't notice that. There's like a whole British white guy that I've been playing as for the past two hours, and the main character does not look like that whatsoever. So I should have been like, who is this guy? But no, that was a very interesting. There was a moment where I was like sitting there, I was like, oh, I got shivers. I was like, you guys got me when they have that guy who was helping you out all that time, and you're like, welcome to the Brotherhood, and they give him like a Templar ring, and you're like, whoa, wait a minute, wait, what? So that was awesome. So I'll give him credit for there, and it is kind of funny, me in 2021 experiencing this 2012 game so much later, and I'm like sitting there like, but in many ways I feel like it's a breath of fresh air, because I just find it so much more manageable than, I mean, I came in with the tail end of Origins. I did play Origins when it came out, but especially Odyssey, I think, is the one that I went the deepest in. So I was like a very late adopter, and so when my head goes to Assassin's Creed, it's these kind of like insanely large, almost overwhelming games. So going back to these, I find like way more refreshing, where you kind of just do the story. That's it, and I like that, and I like the fact that the conflict between the Brotherhood and the Templars is so much more like in the like it's overt. It's not like where they take these events and like they have like this hidden cult in the background. That's obviously the Templars, but it's like they're not using the names. Like here, it's like very overt. Like you are part of the Brotherhood of Assassins, and you're hunting these guys, part of the Templars. That's it. Like it's simple. And yes, it had all the Isu stuff in the background, especially with Desmond and all, and that stuff's fine. But I also find that more manageable too, where like instead of finding it out retroactively in Valhalla at the very end, or Odyssey at the very end, not really spoilers for that, here it's kind of woven into the fabric of the game throughout the entirety thing, and you're kind of learning as they're learning at the same time. So like they're introducing all these fresh concepts. So as confusing as like all the Isu stuff can be, Desmond doesn't really know what the hell's going on either. Like he's sitting there, he's like, what are you talking about? Like, how do we stop the world from being destroyed in 2012? I don't care about what happened 10,000 years ago. But and I could appreciate that. So and obviously because I wasn't there in real time, I don't necessarily have that level of affinity for that cast of characters specifically, for the people in the future stuff. So I don't necessarily have the attachment to Desmond that a lot of other people do, but I can appreciate the fact that there is this linear fabric, at least between Assassin's Creed 1, 2, and 3, where there is that through line between them. And even though like obviously the main protagonist of 3, Connor, is not blood related to Ezio, and I forget his name in the first one, but
Altair.
Yeah, Altair. Like I feel like they make the through lines make a lot more sense between those. Where like to find the connection between Eivor and what happened with the Brotherhood, it's like a very loose connection. Same thing with like Cassandra too, as well. And especially once you get into the latter half of Odyssey, I don't know if you beat Odyssey, it goes complete nutcase mode with all the Atlantis stuff. That it's just like to make those connections is very loose, where I can appreciate it was more manageable once upon a time. And so obviously I have quite a bit of games to go through, so who knows, by the time I get to Syndicate it might not make much sense again, but yeah, I'm positive about it now, and I'm excited to keep making my way through it. Now I'll report what I think about. I'm excited to go to Black Flag specifically because that was like a revolutionary game at the time, to have this ability to kind of like just it was like a true open world game that I feel like actually did it well, almost for the first time in Assassin's Creed. And so that's I'm excited to see, because the heritage of that led directly to games like Odyssey, specifically, and even to many ways Valhalla. Without Black Flag, you don't get those games. So I'm curious to see how that holds up now.
Yeah, it's actually really interesting to hear, because I played these games as they came out, so it's a little bit different to see it now through your eyes, like retrospectively, how it is. And that so the third one, a lot of themes, you'll see why the whole series really changes after the third one. So once you get to Black Flag, I think it's almost immediately you notice what the change. But you're right, Black Flag was such a switch, and I guess more of like at the time a future game plan to what Assassin's Creed becomes, and ended up what it became as well. Because that's the big feature everyone always talks about is the pirate and actually sailing feature, which I mean even pushed Ubisoft to make Skull and Bones, though that game is in development.
Who knows where that is?
Never will probably ever be released, but it pushed people to want that. So I'm excited to hear what you think as you get a little bit further into these.
Yeah, and I'm not even playing the remasters either. So yeah, I'm playing on a Series X, so I guess it definitely looks better than it would look like on a crappier 720 TV in 2012. But yeah, I'm playing the games as they came out for the most part, and I think they hold up fairly well. And I do love some of the crowd stuff. It feels more like an Assassin's game, like when you're actually playing as an assassin, where like in Valhalla you're a Viking, so you're raiding, and it's just a fundamentally different thing, where it's like I can appreciate me just taking out an encampment, just wading through grass and crowds and against corners, like and hiding in the darkness and stuff like that. And I can appreciate those kind of things, where I feel like if any game brought that back, it was Ghost of Tsushima was the one that kind of brought that back in a real way. And so it's nice to be able to play, like, to see where all these things came from. And again, I know certain major storylines wrap up in 3. And I know it's not technically a trilogy because there is Brotherhood and Revelations, but it's a numbered trilogy. And just, I know that there's going to be major narrative decisions that they've since not necessarily rectified since then. Obviously, the departure from using Desmond as that main focal point in the future stuff, I know is something that they moved away from. And I won't get into spoilers for Valhalla, but they do try to put that back on track to a certain extent. And I'll kind of leave it there because I know a lot of people maybe not made it through Valhalla. But they do try to put that on track. So getting this kind of parallel of like playing 3 and Valhalla actually makes a lot more sense than you'd think.
That's an interesting connection.
Yeah, so if anything, if you're ever interested, go finish Valhalla and then go back, and I think it'll make a lot more sense, because I think Valhalla brings back themes that they hadn't touched in a very long time. And I know that because I saw the reception online. Even though I haven't played on everything, everybody's like, holy crap. Yeah, they play with some narrative things that they haven't tapped in a very long time.
I'll have to keep a note on that.
Yeah, still doesn't make sense though. Don't get it twisted. Like, it doesn't make sense in the narrative context, but it is cute them trying. But I guess we could move on to the stories. I won't take any more of the time. Oh, and then I guess one thing I have dabbled in the Ascent, but I don't have anything to report yet. Quite yet, I haven't hit like even an hour yet, so I'm very lightly in the Ascent. But
right.
Okay, so yeah, now we're going to talk about the Halo Infinite multiplayer beta. This is typically we don't always have a dedicated story, but to stuff like this. But Halo is one of those franchises. I think that kind of justifies that. And we've been waiting for this game for a long time, and so finally we have something to talk about. So Halo Infinite's technical preview or beta is live this weekend. The beta started on July 29th, and it's going to end on Monday, August 2nd, so that's tomorrow from when we're recording this right now, at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Players signed up for the beta through Halo Insider, and now they can install it on either their Xbox One, Xbox Series X, or PC via Steam. But you must have received an invitation in order to participate. So while players won't be able to access Halo Infinite's campaign during the technical preview this weekend, they will have the opportunity to try out some of the game's upcoming free-to-play multiplayer. And throughout the beta, a few different types of playlists will be available, and they're going to pit players against both bots and other players. So I didn't sign up for this ability to go into this multiplayer beta. And also, I'm not a Halo multiplayer guy. I didn't grow up with it. I only got to experience them through the Master Chief Collection. So I only have ever played Halo via... I played Halo 1 multiplayer, the Combat Evolved one, and then I played the stories of the other ones. So this is not really my world. This is definitely more your world, and I know you've played it. So take it away.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was an interesting way. You know, they did, I feel, almost in a way, it feels like they waited a little too long for this. You gotta, you know, the invitations went out the day before the technical preview even went live. It was really weird. There was no real guarantee. I've always been a Xbox and a Halo insider, so I didn't have to do anything. I just got the email luckily the day before. And then it was like this weird, they did like a stream the day earlier that day. And they talked about what was going to be in the technical preview and how it's like a very, very small slice of the game, and they're going to open it up bigger and bigger. So anyone out there who's worried they didn't get into this one, there's going to be bigger. They purposely don't call this a beta or even an alpha. They always call it a technical preview or flight because Microsoft likes those terms.
Yeah. So
there will be hopefully an official open beta so they can really like stress the servers and focus a little bit more on PvP because so it exists. I do think it was weird that they hid this all behind like this technical flight stuff and all this stuff you had to be signed up. So you had to be signed up twice to then get access to an app that would then give you access to the Halo app that would let you launch the beta. So it was a lot of nonsense. I don't think this is the game you want to start testing your Microsoft. You had to download the Microsoft Insider and then get the Halo Infinite Insider. It was like a lot of nonsense. Once I finally got through, though, once I got that downloaded and stuff, I got to check it out. There was a little nostalgic feeling when it shows up, says Halo Infinite, and it has the theme we all know of, you know, the humming song comes up, and I'm like, you know, it got me a little bit. I was like, wow, okay, it's here in a sense in my physical hands. So we launched it up. The game looks really good. I'm playing on a Series X, so I don't know what everyone else is. Look, I know there was some few bugs on the PC and things like that, but the game looks really good. It's not supposed to be the super crazy realistic stuff that we saw they were trying to do with more Halo 5. It's more of a return to form, and we've all known this since the original preview, the original teaser where we saw Master Chief's armor look great but simplified, and all that kind of fits in really well. So the style of the game is always something that we always preach about, is more with the style of it. I don't want to... You know, of course we want it to look really cool, high def and 4K. We're on these new systems, but there's a way to do that without losing the artistic value, and I think they really preserved it. Same way how Mass Effect was able to kind of preserve most of what's in Mass Effect 1 with its remastered version. I would say almost, I mean, obviously way better in Halo. It fits very well. It does feel like a modern Halo, where the controls are obviously the controls. Like if I were to hand you this, you would know how to crouch, how to duck, how to not really aim down sights. There's like a sort of middle ground aim down sights now that Halo has always played with, not really having it, but it is. You know, sprinting, sliding is there. As much as I don't want those two things there, they're there. but it doesn't feel like it breaks the game as we felt in Halo 5. That the mobility is brought down a lot. So right now we're really only available to play through a bot system, which, well, your team, you play on a team of players versus bots. In day one, the bots were pretty okay if they felt like regular bots. They did do a switch on a ODST difficulty mode, and those bots do not miss a shot. Let me tell you, it got insane. If you go look at some of the stuff on Twitter, people start to really go in on all the memes are there because it was like a light switch. You know, I went from going 20-2 to 10-13, and it was just a jarring moment when they switched it. But it's cool. They're slowly just releasing. I did play one map this morning where we have 3 maps now that cycle in. So it's cool that we're seeing this, where it's cool to see it back, to have this feeling where it doesn't feel like they're competing with Halo, Call of Duty or Battlefield, which really what 4 and 5 sort of leaned into. It feels like they're leaning more into that. Everyone starts with the same 2 weapons. Here's a special weapon or a special power-up in the middle. You guys can go for it. You might get sniped trying to grab it, but if you do get it, like the grapple hook or you know, the rocket launcher and stuff like that, it's really cool. So I like the little bit we've seen of it. I don't know what other things they want to add, and hopefully they do add. It's surprisingly not as stable. It being such a small flight or small testing, you'd think it'd be okay and a little bit faster. Especially, it keeps boggling my mind that this game would have, in another world, launched last year.
Yeah.
I don't know how that I don't know who ever thought that was gonna happen. Something definitely happened, because it does have a lot of still bugs in it, and they say what we're playing is a few months old of a build, which again I try to keep that in perspective, because when the game's running great, it's running great, but then, you know, I will go to pick up a needler, and some reason my guy will go through the wall, and then it collapses, and then I'm booted all the way back to the Xbox menu. So it's definitely interesting. I do wish, and I know that they're hoping to release other betas and other flights and stuff like that. I do wish there was just a little more. You know, they really focus on showing what the multiplayer is going to be. You know, they gave us sort of a fake season pass type, like a battle pass. They gave us currency, so, you know, microtransactions we know it's going to be in the game. They gave us currency, they gave us fake not fake, but you just launched it and they gave us like 2,000 of it so you can pretend to buy things in the store, which I'm like, I don't like that. It's a little too grooming, but at the same time, it's nothing you haven't seen in Fortnite, Apex, Warzone. It's that style. I just think it was so weird that it was, the store is up, they gave you some points to buy all cosmetics. The only thing that is not guess game breaking, but you can buy like XP boost for 30 minutes and stuff like that. Besides that, everything else as of right now is cosmetic. No other advances so far. I don't know what they're hiding, or they're not hiding. I think they kind of have their head on straight. I'd be super shocked if they put any sort of game breaking abilities in there. But again, all cosmetic, so I wasn't too mad at it. I have to keep remembering that this portion of the game will be free to play for many people, and on top of that, through Game Pass. So it's interesting. I do like a lot, everything to kind of wrap it up. I do like a lot in everything I've seen in this technical preview. I just hope that the game's. I just really want this game to launch this fall, because I think it's the time. I think you're getting a lot of positive feedback right now from the small technical preview. Hopefully they do a beta where they're just like kind of let tons of people in. If I remember, I think Battlefield did this one year where the beta was going to end and they said, you know what, beta's going to be open for 2 more days. I hope you guys crash the servers. Like, everybody sign in and do stuff. And I think that's really fun to do, to test it, because I don't think they know how big Halo Infinite's going to be. I don't think they realize how many people are really on there, from the free-to-play model, from the Game Pass model. A lot of people are going to be there day one. And as great as the campaign can be, there's going to be people that's the first thing they do is jump into the multiplayer, and that might be the only thing they jump into. So I really do hope that this game is shaping up really great. From what I've seen, it looks good. It's running solid. that's such a small fragment. You know, we got one game mode. We don't have vehicles in any of these maps unless something changes tonight, because it's still live for one more day.
Yeah.
No vehicles. You know, no flying vehicles. No. All the maps have been pretty small. It's all been 4v4 maps and stuff like that. I think one of them may be 5v5, but I think it's usually 4v4. So it's like, well, what else? You know, I get it. You're kind of giving us a little appetizer, but I think we're all okay in saying, you know, it's been years in the wait. It's time for the meal. It's time for the whole thing. So I hope we get a full beta soon. I do worry because they did mention that there will be a bigger technical preview. I just hope they just rephrase it, give it to a beta so everyone can download it, try it out, and win people over. Because in all, they won me over. Like, that's all I've been wanting to play this weekend, and I keep stopping myself because none of this progress is gonna go over all these visors and colors I'm unlocking, and I got my guy looking cool. I'm like, none of this is gonna transfer, and as of Monday when I get back from work, it may all be gone. So I'm trying to do that, but it's great because you got me wanting to play your game. So that's really my thoughts and feeling. I know it's a little all over the place, but it's just so much to take in because we've been dying to get something from this game in our hands. So luckily we did get a few days with it, which I'm happy.
Yeah, I mean, I really do hope they do an open beta because I would love to give this a shot and check this out. As someone who only really is super familiar with Halo 1 and a bit of Halo 2, quite a bit too, it looks very familiar to me, which is very interesting to me, where it's like I've seen footage from Halo 4 and 5, and like I can tell it's Halo, but I can tell like it's something else, like it's advanced way farther than the ones that I'm familiar with. But when I look at Infinite, like it's obviously prettier, it's sleeker, it's cleaner, it's faster, but it's familiar. Like there's a familiarity to the aesthetic that they're using, the weapons that they're using, that it's definitely bringing me those Combat Evolved vibes. And I don't know if that's just me as kind of an outside observer, not knowing much about Halo, but that's the vibe that I get. Like, would you say that is the case, or is that just kind of my own unfamiliarity with Halo?
No, I think you're on base with that. I think a lot of what they wanted to do was hit that nostalgic feeling. So the guns sound like what you remember they sound like, you know, because gameplay always comes down to everything, to what it looks like, to what it actually feels like moving it, and what it sounds like, in my opinion. Yeah. So when you hear those needlers crackling and exploding, it sounds right. When you're throwing the grenades and you hear the plasma grenades do that and blow up, like it should. At least that's what, for me, it hits that Halo 1, 2, 3 sort of feel, which I think that's what everybody wanted, and I think they understand was what everybody wanted.
Yeah, and that's the big thing for me. Halo, like, sound effects, and then there's also this kind of aesthetic thing that I think Halo does really well, which is melding the manufactured metallic alien with kind of the natural environment, and they do that so well. And that's like a lot of the classic Halo maps, where like you'll have like these open kind of beautiful vistas that look like a literal Windows Vista image, and then you have like these giant metal chunks of like facilities in them, and just watching people play, and I'm like, this is like if I was gonna say like what I'd like Halo in 2021 or 2022 to look like, this is pretty much it. And so I'm excited to see what's going on. I'm excited to see what they do from like a story perspective as well, and I think that there's good signs so far, because you know you and I have said it multiple times, like they need to get this one right. And I was like looking at Xbox figures yesterday, and they've sold more based on their numbers. They've sold more Xbox Series X's as of right now than in the same time period the Xbox One and the Xbox 360. It's outselling both of them by time. You know what I mean? So that means that the player load is gonna be pretty significant. So I'm hope that they get it right. I'm very refreshed to see people actually talking about Halo in like a very positive way, which I think is an awesome thing. The fact that we have finally a quality Xbox console, the hardware itself is quality. There's a Halo on the horizon. People are liking it. This is kind of the first time in my aware history of me actually in the Xbox ecosystem where like people are like seemingly positive about a Halo, because I wasn't around during the Bungie days, so this is nice to see that. And the team is what, 3-4-3, right?
Now it's 3-4-3. Yeah.
Yeah, 3-4-3 looks like they might be able to have finally that halo that people are like, there we go, you got it. Because and there are people who love the latter ones, don't get it twisted, but I think the kind of consensus thought is that like Bungie were the ones that really nailed it, and from there it kind of went downhill. And so I'm hoping for their sake as well that they can kind of have this little bit of a redemption story where they can drop that halo that everybody is like, damn, they knocked it out of the park. Even though it's not Bungie, even though it's not the one I grew up on, they did it. They captured the spirit correctly, and I think that's the thing. That's one of the hardest things to do about Halo is on the outside observer, the people who don't really know much about it, it can come off as just another space shooter, but there's like a soul to it that is so difficult to replicate, and nobody's really been able to do it. And so that's what makes Halo so unique, and I'm excited to see that back into the culture in a major way, where people can be like how awesome would it be to have a Halo and possible Game of the Year discussion? Like, how long has that been?
I would love to preach for that game.
Yeah, how beautiful would that be if like people are talking about Game of the Year and Sony's got their stuff and Nintendo's got their stuff, and Microsoft can finally be like, how about Halo Infinite for like it's been, I mean, years and years and years since Halo has really been even in the contender. And again, it might be premature because again, we've never even touched the game yet. But I think there is immense potential here, because not only is there an appetite for a new Halo, but there's a appetite for something to play on Xbox, period. I got a lot to play because I love the Game Pass stuff. I love playing old Assassin's Creed games, stuff like that. But a lot of people are just looking for something new to play. And so there is a hunger in the Xbox ecosystem that I have never observed before, because I don't know if they've ever been starved like this before. So yeah, this is very exciting times. I'm glad that you like it, and I'm just excited. I'm just hoping that they open it up a little bit more, so I'll be able to play at some point. Now, is this final thing? Is this game still slated for holiday 2021, or has it gotten involved yet?
In the stream that they did before the original invites went out, so like the same day, but it was like the day before, basically. They did just, every time it came up, they said this holiday. They said holiday 2021, later this holiday. Like, that's all they kept saying. So again, Xbox likes to dance around these things sometimes. So they did refuse to say a date. They did refuse to say fall, anything. They were just still holiday 2021.
I really hope they hit. I really hope they hit this year, because like, I mean, a year delay, like over a year, is a lot, man. That's a lot to bump it. So I really hope they hit it this year, because I really do feel like the Series X ecosystem in general needs something major. Like I love the Game Pass stuff. I love all the smaller games, and I love all the older games that have been cleaned up and stuff like that. But we need something. If Gears ain't ready, Coalition, somebody better fire. Initiative, I don't know what you guys are doing. Do something.
No, yeah, that's very true. And especially that, as time comes, more and more consoles are going to be sold and found. I actually found there's 7 Xbox Series S's at my local Walmart, which is wild. I just sat there looking at it because I couldn't believe it. Yeah, they're on the shelf for sale. No X's, but S's are there. And when people buy these systems, if they're not in tune with the Game Pass, they're gonna ask for the newest game. And Halo goes hand in hand with Xbox, always has. So they're gonna be, oh, can I have the next? Oh, give me the newest Halo. Oh, it's not out yet. You don't want that to be the discussion.
It was on the box of the Series
this fall, because it's on exactly. It's on the box of it. So I hope the game is way beyond ready to launch this holiday 2021.
Yeah, and not to go too off on a tangent on the side there, but I have heard quite a bit of to back up that idea of the whole Series S being super available thing.
Yeah,
I've heard from many people, both personally and online, that Series S's are everywhere. Like, people are finding multiple ones, and apparently I went on Walmart the other day and I just looked it up, and they had it in stock. Not a sale, not a new restock. It was just there. So it seems like the demand for the Series S is substantially lower than the X and the PS5. And yeah, I think that's because mostly the people who are in the Xbox ecosystem want the most powerful machine to be able to play their Xbox games. PS5 players who are in the PlayStation ecosystem don't really have that much interest. So it's really great for like conversions or people who want to dabble in the Xbox ecosystem. And to be honest with you, until the first party really fires, I don't think that's going to really kick in until then. I don't think there's going to be many people who are PC player, or never mind, because if you're a PC player, you don't need to get an Xbox, period. But if you're like a PlayStation player and you're kind of like morbidly curious, like what's going on over there in Xbox? Oh, I want to get a Series S because it's the cheapest thing. They don't really have any motivation to do that as of right now. And I wouldn't be surprised if once Halo is out, maybe when a new Gears is out, especially when Forza kicks in too, because that's a thing too. Then I think the Series S's are probably going to start moving because a little bit of those conversions are going to start kicking in a little bit more.
Yeah.
Where as of right now, I don't think there's anything to really appetize a PlayStation player to even care too much what's happening in the Xbox ecosystem quite right now, with exception for like backwards compatibility, which I know is not something everybody's interested in. There's a lot of people who don't have any interest in older games, so the Xbox ecosystem is not going to do too much for them right now, and it doesn't really do too much different than the Xbox One did as of right now. So that's a really interesting point that you mentioned that, because from what I understand, that's kind of like a nationwide phenomena.
Yeah, it was jarring. Like, part of me almost wanted to just buy one. I was like, I kind of just want to buy this, and I was like,
I want one.
I thought about it, and I was like, this could be maybe, the console I keep on my desk with my PC, but then I'm like, that's redundant. So hopefully we'll see, and hopefully we see more and more consoles out there in the wild.
How much are they again? They're like 3?
That's 300.
300?
I think it was 300.
See, like, I want one, and I want it for collector's purposes, and it's also, I want one in the bedroom just to be able to, like, game a little bit, and they sync over the save so well that I know, like, I wouldn't have to, I just install the games I want to play, and then if someone's playing on the main TV, I could just really hop in here really quick and play that. But the 300's a little bit more than an impulse buy. Like, I can't go full collector mode and just drop another 300, especially with the fact that I'm very stupidly buying the OLED, which I know I should not buy the Switch OLED, but I'm going to. So.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat where it's like, again, I just stared at it and I was like, I kind of want to. And then I thought the same. I'm like, well, for no reason I'm buying, maybe getting the Switch, and I'm like, do I really? I was like, I have a Series X. If I didn't have one, maybe I'd be able to convince myself. But I was like, I have a Series X in the same room, in the same room as my PC. So it's like, what would I do with it? Put it in my room. My PS4 is there. That's where I retired my PS4 to. So it's interesting though. But I like that I have the option to buy it now.
Yeah,
I do I like having the possibility that I doubt they're still there, but pull up to that Walmart and just get them.
It'll only get cheaper, so who knows? Maybe in a couple years, when I can justify, or you can justify actually spending that money on a new Xbox, or not even like a new Xbox, but like something to add to the collection. It'll probably be cheaper by that point. You might be able to pick one up for $200, $250 or something like that.
Yeah, maybe. All right, so well, let's switch gears here a little bit into some Sony news. Not the best one though. Not the best Sony news. So Sony has delayed the PlayStation exclusive Horizon Forbidden West into 2022, according to multiple reports. Bloomberg and Jeff Grubb both reported that Horizon Forbidden West, the upcoming sequel to Guerrilla Games' Horizon Zero Dawn, will be delayed to Q1 2022 after initially targeting a holiday 2021 release date. PlayStation Studio boss Hermen Hulst himself previously said in June that Horizon Forbidden West was on track to release this holiday season, but stopped short of confirming an exact release date, given how much the global pandemic has impacted video game development. Grubb mentioned that a potential September event from PlayStation will officially confirm the delay, while highlighting the games that will come to PlayStation this fall. So this is a deja vu, because we've had this conversation maybe 2 or 3 times already on our gut feeling that Horizon in a way we could see it coming out this fall, being great, everybody loves it, but we also realistically see it being delayed. With that big PlayStation State of Play they did, when they ended that and they didn't give us a date, that's when I was pretty much convinced. I think you were on kind of the same boat, and we discussed it last time, that the game was not going to launch this fall. We kind of felt it, because that would have been the perfect time right before E3 to announce the date. I don't know why you wouldn't, if this was all rumors. Bloomberg, Jeff Grubb, they've been pretty solid with every single sort of rumor when it comes like that. They're not quick to just mention anything out of nowhere. But this makes a lot of sense. We've been talking about how Q1 2022 would make it almost exactly 5 years, or 5 or 6 years, almost to the date of the first Horizon. So that kind of makes sense to release this maybe in the February time, I think, is when the first Horizon dropped.
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense. It kind of bums me out because that just leaves really nothing for PlayStation this year, besides, I mean, I know within the next 2 months, August, September, we have Death Stranding Director's Cut, we have Ghost of Tsushima's Director's Cut, but again, those are sort of, I don't want to say ports, but, you know, repackages of some 2014's games. The only thing, unless you're going to just try to do all these last minute push-ups, are we going to get Last of Us Director's Cut, God of War Director's Cut? That's really just, it leaves the year empty almost.
Yeah.
Especially when you're looking at the other side too, where Halo's not confirmed this year, Horizon's not confirmed for this year. I'm like, what am I going to be playing this fall?
Third party mostly.
You know, I know the third parties have it strong. Trust me, I know you and I are dying for Far Cry. I know.
Oh God,
we're itching at that for that one. But what you think of this? I know you probably weren't surprised, but I know it probably still. I was looking forward to still playing this fall. I really think I really wanted to. I just installed the first one to do a quick replay on that Super Story Easy mode or whatever. So I was excited for that. But what did you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's disappointing, but both you and I 100% called and expected a delay. I mean, at the end of the day, it's August right now. So if they were gonna fire, I would imagine they would have gone gold, you know, relatively soon, started printing up discs, started the marketing materials, maybe a console bundles. Like we would have started seeing some movement on Sony's side. And the fact that none of that really came, and just the quietness. If you compare it, and I know I saw some people online that really didn't see it coming. They're like, oh, because Ratchet had such a quick turnaround. But it's important to make also a note that though Ratchet is a major first party offering, you can't necessarily compare the rollout of that compared to Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us, God of War. They really give a lot of more incubation time on average, and Ratchet is an outlier, you know what I mean? Because that's not something they're necessarily marketing to the totality of their first-party fan base. So with a game like Horizon, I think they give that plenty of time to show off. I mean, knowing Sony, they're going to overshow when it's truly ready. Like, they're going to have state of play after state of play, just dedicated 25 minutes to them playing this game. Have the developers there talking over and everything like that. And so because it was August and I just didn't really hear anything, nothing even scheduled, I was like, you know, it's very likely that this is going to get booted, especially with COVID delays, and the fact that offices are still fully not 100% back tells me that we're not out of the delay season quite yet. So yeah, it didn't really surprise. I mean, for example, Kingdom Bridge of Spirits just got pushed to September. So things are still happening. Where nothing, I think people thought it settled a lot more, but especially with all like the Delta variant and stuff like that too, and certain states closing down and stuff like that, I don't think we're out of the weeds quite yet. And I think unfortunately delay season is still going to be in full effect well into the rest of this year and maybe even well into 2022 before everything, you know, settles, everybody's productivity goes back up, and we could start having those cemented release dates. So it's unfortunate, but one of those things, I mean, like, get it right. Like, the first party has such a high track record right now for Sony that if they need a couple more months, like, I'm not mad at that. I'd rather them maintain that level of quality and take their time than rush something out that's just not ready. And yeah, I'm just excited to play it when it's ready to go. Now that you mentioned it, who knows? Yeah, it gives me time to maybe do another playthrough of their first Horizon. It's been a very long time since I've played that. I mean, probably the last time I played Horizon was back in 2017, the tail end when Frozen Wilds came out, the DLC dropped. So that was probably the last time I ever even touched that game. So yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll go back to it, and that gives me a little bit extra time to do that. But yeah, this is kind of unfortunate to see the first party not really have too much to offer, both from Microsoft and Xbox. Or no, I'm stupid. Xbox and Sony. Nintendo will have Metroid Dread, which I guess, like, it absolutely counts for me. I know it probably counts for you. overall, I think Mario, Zelda are like those are like the big first party things people are looking for from Nintendo to actually consider a first party. As far as I'm concerned, Metroid's gonna be something I'm ready to play on that OLED that I'm really happy about. So it's a shame that PlayStation won't really there. So I guess this is really Ubisoft's time to shine, EA's time to shine. Like, this is when they can kind of come out and put out their games and kind of dominate it. There's going to be a Call of Duty to really run the show, probably in late October, early November. And that it's probably going to be about it in terms of major offerings this year. So it's certainly anticlimactic because I felt like by the end of summer is when people would start be dropping their release dates, kind of coming out of the COVID thing. Mm-hmm. With all the vaccinations, and then finally we could get back to like a regular release schedule, but it seems like that's not going to be really the case quite yet, which means that a lot of games are going to continue getting bumped. But again, I'll take a delay over a botched game. Cyberpunk's still broken, so sometimes the extra time's a good thing.
Yeah.
But it's disappointing but expected.
Yeah, and the little we've seen in the game, it looks really fantastic. It looks playable. Yeah. So whatever they're doing is making sure it's that Sony level.
Yeah, and it's only Q1 to be honest with you right now too. So that means at the latest March. And yeah, if they can hit February, that'd be cool. That's when the first one came out. It was a great time for that too. I think February for Horizon could be another great time. I think also this game could definitely benefit for a late November. I think would be a great time for this game too. But if they can't hit that, I think February is fine. There's not going to be, as of right now, a ton of competition, so they can kind of just dominate around that point. And hey, if Halo does hit this year, that gives that plenty of time. There won't be any conflict there. And not that there's a tremendous amount of I know people are going to be like Horizon or Halo are very different things, but in terms of like major first party offerings, you don't get bigger than Halo. So the ability for Guerrilla to kind of get out of their way for those people who are multi-platform and not have to worry about that, I think is also to their benefit, to give that a little bit of breathing room. So
Yep.
So I guess we can move on to the big story. Now, this is something that has basically dominated the news cycle in the video game industry for quite some time. And I felt like we'd be remiss if not to mention this, at least, and discuss this a little bit. Now, obviously, this has a lot of sensitive subject material into it, so we're going to try our best to kind of capture everything, be respectful as much as we can. But at the end of the day, we're just like two dudes, so I'm not going to go too deep into any of it because obviously the information's evolving and we want to be sensitive to those who went through the things right now. But so yeah, this is all about Blizzard lawsuit and just various abuse that is happening. Now, even though this is about Blizzard, this is an industry-wide issue. Lots of people have come forward from various companies saying that this exists in other places. There's been rumors about this for a very long time from not only Blizzard but Ubisoft as well, and we'll get into that. So let me break down the story. It's a long one, but there's lots of interesting information here to kind of discuss. So on July 20th, California filed an explosive workplace discrimination and harassment lawsuit against Activision Blizzard. This is the publisher of the immensely popular video games such as World of Warcraft, Overwatch, the Call of Duty franchise. It has resulted in a shockwave of response from employees and other game studios and players. The lawsuit alleges a frat bro culture that was allowed to flourish in the office, creating an environment in which women were sexually harassed and discriminated against in advancement of compensation and decisions. Court documents claim to reveal a culture of gender discrimination at Activision Blizzard that nearly invaded every aspect of the work experience for women in the country, a company who make up only 20% of the 9,500 employees, including compensation, assignment, promotion, termination, constructive discharge, and retaliation. The DFEH investigation also uncovered that the women were much less likely to be promoted, were more likely to be terminated, and were consistently paid less for performing the same work or more work than the male employees. The lawsuit also alleges that women of color were particularly vulnerable to discrimination at Activision Blizzard. One black woman reported that it took her longer than the men hired after her to be made a permanent employee. This employee and another black woman both reported being micromanaged about their time, the one woman claiming that her manager made her write a one-page summary of how she would use time off. Both women left the company as a result of the discriminatory treatment. And a boneheaded, stupid move. Here comes Activision Blizzard with their statements, stated that the DFEH included distorted and, in many cases, false depictions of Blizzard's past and accused the agency of rushing its report. Blizzard President J. Allen Brack sent out a mass email to employees on July 22nd condemning the discriminatory behavior and stated that it disdains bro culture and spent his career fighting against it. Activision Blizzard executive Fran Townsend pushed back against the DFEH's allegations in emails to employee on July 23rd, stating that the suit presented a distorted and untrue picture of our company. She called the lawsuit meritless and irresponsible. Close to 500 current and former employees of Ubisoft are standing in solidarity with protesting game developers at Activision Blizzard with a letter that criticizes the company's handling of sexual misconduct. So Ubisoft has its own history of abuse, dismissal of employee concerns, and executive misconduct. So yeah, Ubisoft a couple months ago was going through a very similar thing, not in terms of the lawsuit, but in terms of kind of mass scale reporting of just incredibly abusive behavior happening by a lot of the leadership over there at Ubisoft, and dismissal by Yves Guillemot to a lot of the concerns, and not really doing what he needs to do, his due diligence, to keep a safe work environment. So it's a very complex issue. They're getting sued for a lot of things. The numbers are like astounding, the sheer amount of people and the allegations that are coming out. This is obviously something that's kind of happened outside of the industry. This is kind of like a societal thing that's happening, and I think it's more than time that it hits a lot of the game industry. But I can speak for, I think, both of us when we say that we absolutely stand with these women, and glad that they can tell their truth. And, I mean, get these dudes out of here, and I hope that they're able to get the justice that they deserve. But did you have any thoughts about this massive story that's been going around?
Yeah, you know, it's crazy, and obviously, yeah, I completely agree that I'm glad that they are finally in the spot where they can come out, tell these stories, not only tell these stories, but connect with people who also unfortunately experience this and do something about it. You know, we're seeing some results. We're seeing, when you see some of those higher ups start to get nervous and start to do all this random stuff, you know, it's, you know, anyone who did wrong should pay for their errors and for their mistakes and for their actions. Which is why, you know, unfortunately it gets worse and worse as you read, where there's one story that someone may have taken their life, which is very sad. There is the whole Cosby room situation that we're not going to really get into because that's a whole other thing. But it's sickening to think that where some people were the ones doing this, there was other people who stood by and let it happen. A lot of the stuff wasn't hidden. A lot of the stuff was in this sort of frat bro, nah, don't worry about it, it's cool, this is guys being guys, and that's not true. That's not what it was. It was sexual harassment. It was discrimination. There were people, you know, think about all the really, you know, all the women that were more than, you know, justified and qualified to have these positions that weren't given it because they were women, just because of that. I mean, the lady who had to write a page on why she wanted time off or how she was going to spend her time off, it doesn't matter. I mean, it's absolutely unacceptable and ridiculous, which is why obviously I was glad that, you know, the state of California is getting in on this. All these other people are starting to come out. All these, you know, the people who are denying it. I mean, there's proof coming out. There's emails, screenshots, text messages, photos, all this stuff that's coming out to strengthen the argument, and I'm glad there is, because it really is unacceptable. Nobody should have to work in that way, and no one should live in that way. So I'm glad that this is finally coming to a point where something's going to happen and things are getting done because of it.
Yeah, and just these executive statements that they're putting out is just nasty. Like, just imagine, like, working in a place that you're mistreated, you're discriminated against, you're abused, and higher ups do nothing for you, and then finally when the story blows up to a certain level, they finally do respond with basically pushing against you to protect like their stakeholders and stuff like that. Yeah. So it's nasty, and I hope they get what it's coming to them. And I think on a player level, because obviously neither you or I hold stock in these companies, neither you or I work at these companies, we're not in a position of leadership to really affect that kind of change. But I think it's important to put a little bit of the onus on players as well, to be mindful of where you're putting your money. and what these companies are doing with said money. And I can say, at least for me, this absolutely gives me pause. So when I see that Blizzard name, until they fix things, I don't know if I'm giving you your money. Not that I'm even, I don't know. I'm certainly not engaging with any of the material that Activision Blizzard puts out. And it certainly gives me pause in terms of Ubisoft games as well. I play a lot of Ubisoft games as well, and until their culture of workplace harassment is kind of rectified, I need to seriously reconsider my support of these companies, because that's ultimately what a lot of these companies respond to, unfortunately, is money and hitting them where it hurts. And so I think just on a player level, I think it's worth considering that, hey, if you in any way care about these developers and these women going through these absolutely horrendous experiences at these companies, it's important to consider what you're even supporting when you buy these games, and support and sending the $60 to $70 to this game studio with these games that are created in a workplace that, I mean, toxic is almost an understatement. So not to put the complete onus on players, but I think it's something worth considering as just a consumer, where you're putting your money. And it's something I try to be more aware with, and I've certainly not done the best with it, and I certainly could do better with it, especially with the Ubisoft stuff, and I'm going to try to be better about that. And I just think that, for anybody who's listening who is like hearing about this for the first time, just be aware of who you're buying from and where that money's going to, and whether that is in line with what you find moral, to be honest with you. So,
no, yeah, I completely agree with that. I had that same thought actually last night when I was reading this and preparing for the show. I was like, well, I'm not a big fan of Blizzard games in general. I usually don't like the community of people and things like that. But besides that, it's like, if I can vote with my wallet, at least personally, consciously be like, well, maybe I won't buy whatever they want to release this year, even extending into the whatever Call of Duty's released this year. I don't think we've gotten an announcement yet, but I can go without I can go without playing a Call of Duty, especially when I have other things, when I have other companies that I can support, smaller companies that I can support, that don't allow this sort of culture to just reign underneath them with no consequences. So I'm on that same as well, and I do have to be better as well for Ubisoft, because like we just said, we want to play Far Cry, and sometimes I forget that it is their Ubisoft title. Ubisoft is still going through this history, and this Activision Blizzard stuff kind of re-brought some of that Ubisoft things back into light on things that were done, and some action has been taken, and there's other things that have not been done yet, and people who had some allegations against them are still in charge and power on payroll. So it does make you want to have to think a little bit on, maybe you can wait, speak with your wallet.
Yeah, definitely. And I do encourage anybody, I'm going to link down below some of the stories that kind of summarize these issues, and I'm going to try to link some more resources that you can maybe throw some support to some of these developers that are going through some of these messed up times. So look in the comment section, or not even the comment section, if you look at the description down below, I'm going to try to have some links there for you guys if you'd like to read more about this and find how and where you can support the people who are going through these things, because it's a really messed up situation. But I'm glad that we can cover it, and we'll keep you guys kind of up to date if there's anything else that kind of evolves with this, or anybody else that's looped in on the story, because something tells me this is certainly not the end of it.
No.
And it's not the end of it for Blizzard, and it's certainly not the end of it for the industry at large.
No, absolutely. So we can get to the last story, which is something that's been rumored for a while. I think we've even discussed it maybe once or twice, but finally, Electronic Arts has announced the return of Dead Space, a remake of the sci-fi classic survival horror game. It will be developed by EA Motive. The new Dead Space will be a remake completely rebuilt from the ground up. Dead Space is being developed exclusively for next-generation consoles and PC, raising the level of horror and immersion to unprecedented heights for the franchise through stunning visuals, audio, and controls powered by the Frostbite game engine. The fans will experience an improved story, characters, gameplay mechanics, and more as they fight to survive the living nightmare aboard the desolate, binding starship, the USG Ishimura, all while uncovering the dreadful mystery of what happened to the slaughtered crew and ship. So EA finally coming out, and EA's been on this sort of rectifying and kind of wanting to win people back, and this is something that a lot of us have been wanting. Dead Space that trilogy of games is locked away in the past, in a sense. Thank you for Xbox, we can play them. I'm of two minds here. I definitely would have liked a Mass Effect approach, where I would love to get the first 3 games remastered, cleaned up, and then move on to a successor, or Dead Space 4, or whatever they wanted to call it. It is interesting that they're going back to just remake the first one. I wonder what this plans for the long run. But I think it's super cool to bring Dead Space back. I think I've not played Dead Space 1 in a while. Last time I did play it held up. You know, it obviously plays like an older generation game, because it is. But a lot of the mechanics, a lot of the stuff it did, you know, the no HUD, the life bar where the life is, and you being an everyman using construction tools to kill off aliens, I think is really cool. I think to be able to reintroduce this game to a new generation of people, especially in a generation where people love to now like stream and scream and get out of the hand, though that's not me, I don't think that's you either, but I understand it, you know, especially seeing this, because the success, they have to have seen the success of all these horror games. Resident Evil and Capcom has been killing it pretty well. There is this sort of revival of that horror aspect that many people kind of want, and Dead Space does a specific kind of horror, that sort of claustrophobic one-on-one type horror, which I think is really great. So I'm excited for this. I wish that we'd just maybe seen more. I think this game is way far out, because the small teaser we saw didn't really tease much, but the little we did see looked great. What'd you think of this?
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I played Dead Space actually not too long ago, because it's on Game Pass right now. Yep. So I was able to kind of give it a shot. It holds up very, very well, very impressive, because that it's been many years since that came out, but visually it held up pretty well. It's still horrifying, which makes me think, like, if you get like PS5 and Series X and PC level visuals now with that level of horror, because I guess if it's fundamentally the same game, that's gonna be rough to get through. I don't know if I'd be able to do it. But yeah, no, these games were excellent. At least the first 2. I know the third one kind of made a little bit of a departure, but I think this is a brilliant idea, bringing this back. I agree with you that maybe a Dead Space collection would have been like maybe the better way to do it, and then have a brand new Dead Space game. However, if you say like Dead Space 1 is one of the best ones, period, a remake of that is not a bad idea either, as a way to reintroduce it, kind of your best foot forward, where it's like, instead of like bringing back a collection and then bringing back something new as like a way to like reintroduce, how about choosing something that guarantee works, and then using that as an introduction spot, and maybe they can crash for it a little bit with the new one that is in the same spirit, with that kind of fresh in your mind. So there's a couple different ways they can go about it. I know like EA is not the biggest on like remake or like reboots and remakes and remasters. They're not the biggest on that, and I know Mass Effect kind of changed that for them. So hopefully this is kind of ushering a new era of like EA maybe reaching back into their back catalog into some great things and bringing it forward, because I think they have so many amazing games from the past that they haven't done anything with. So I think there's lots of potential here. Dead Space is one of their better franchises. I think it's a great time for that. We're in a little bit of a horror resurgence here, and you don't get more survival horror than Dead Space. And it was horrifying then, and I feel like in many ways they kind of set the bar for survival horror, and nobody's really touched it in that way since then. In terms of newer horrors, I know Resident Evil dabbles in that world, but I think there's certainly horror elements to it, but I think Resident Evil is so much more than kind of your traditional horror game, and it's certainly more than just an action game. But I feel like Dead Space really established this unique kind of genre that I always thought was going to blow up more. And not many people really gave it a shot. And with EA kind of stopping making Dead Space, it kind of just stopped there. And nobody really tried to go back for that. That really kind of like, if it's not a walking simulator, but like it's like a third person, it's an action game, but it's also stripped back in the way that you don't have all these crazy weapons to fight with. That is something that people have played around with parts of it, you know what I mean? Ammo scarcity obviously is something that Resident Evil has been doing for a long time. Games like Outlast, Blair Witch, and stuff like that have played around with the inability to use a weapon. But this had this interesting middle zone where it was so scary. It was so dynamic. The AI was all crazy. You're in these cramped environments where you're trying to figure out how to do things, and you're not only trying to figure out how to do things, but you're like there's something after you when you're trying to figure it out too.
Yeah.
So it's really freaking scary. And it reminds me of like when I describe Dead Space. It's like that moment in Metroid Fusion when SAX is hunting you, and you're in the little vent area and it's like going below you. It's like that moment for 20 hours. Like it's just pure anxiety. And so I'm excited to see what this does when it's coming back. I just don't think I'm going to be able to handle it, to be honest with you. So
yeah, I'm in the mixed bag where it's like I kind of actually just want to play the trilogy now and then go enjoy it more. But I'm also trying to think of all the little small changes they could do.
Yeah.
Because they've there's very few information, but the way they talk about it is they want this to be what like RE2 remake was to Resident Evil.
Mm-hmm.
They want Dead Space to kind of be the same, be Dead Space remake. But I'm like, I wonder what those changes, those small little fixes could make the game a little bit better. But I would like to experience those games as is, so to really appreciate it. Resident Evil 2 was a little bit different because Resident Evil 2 was so old. I didn't.
Oh, you can't go back to that.
I was not gonna go play Resident Evil 2 before playing Resident Evil 2 remake.
No.
Trust me, no
brutal.
need for that. But Dead Space is a little bit different, where it's like,
well, they're on Game Pass if you want to, all three of them. So
yeah. I actually probably real curious. I know there's some people nervous out there because it's EA Motive, and Motive doesn't have they're very new.
Yeah.
They've really only done they helped with Star Wars Battlefront 2, and then they did Squadrons. So this is kind of a big
Jump,
deal.
Yeah.
This is a big thing where if in a world they mess this up, you assume EA is going to be looking at them, be like, hey, Jade Raymond didn't found this company for this team for nothing, and so we'll have to see exactly what that looks like. But I think they're at least they're familiar with the Frostbite engine. A lot of people, there's been tons of people in the EA family that complain about that engine. So we'll have to hopefully see that they can really recreate this and honor it at the same time.
Yeah, it's a great point that you make about Motive. In part of me, it makes me nervous because EA bringing back a very well-established, well-beloved franchise, giving it to like a smaller, newer team hasn't gone well for them traditionally in the past, aka Andromeda. So I'm hoping and praying that Motive gets it right. I've played some of their stuff before. They're good games, but nothing in line with this. So hopefully EA gives them the necessary support that they need to get this done. But and to be honest with you, yeah, I mean Dead Space remake seems like a lot to give a newer team like Motive. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I can also see that like Toys for Bob was able to do things with like you can do things with established games that exist already, you know what I mean, like Blue Point does and stuff like that. So if Motive can approach it like that, where it's like, well, we already kind of have the skeleton of this, and so we just need to kind of pad it out from there. I think they can make it work, because it's not like they're not starting from zero. Now I understand it's a remake from the ground up, so the new engine, new assets, new all that, but the narrative, the level design, I would imagine to a certain extent is already there. So they have something to work with that maybe can make it a lot more of a manageable project to a team like Motive. But not to crap on Motive. It just seems like a really big thing to put in their hands, when you'd think that EA might want to give this to a more established developer that has been around the block for a while, who can really kind of take their time and get this right. But we'll see. It's very early on. I need to see more before we know whether this is on track or not. But I have faith on this, and what I can say with absolute certainty is that this is the right franchise to bring back, period. And this is an excellent time to do it. So
yeah, I think so as well.
All right, so that was the show, you guys. Only 4 stories, but we got quite a bit of time out of it. Mm-hmm. And so we'll be back not next week, but the week after, with a whole bunch of new news for you guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed the show. So this is the Neo Vintage Podcast. I'm Jarrell, and I'm with
Steve. Hope you guys enjoyed.
And we'll see you guys then.